Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us to this talkback with the director of Wherein I See Myself, Wayne T. Carr, and actors Maya Smoot and Tristan Turner. With Wherein I See Myself, our intention was to invite our audiences to experience how diverse casting choices deepen and broaden Shakespeare's language and significance. This project uses the power of theater to continue the hard, necessary work of reclaiming Shakespeare from a long history of interpretation controlled by white editors, actors, and directors in the service of largely white audiences. In this country and around the world, Shakespeare has been embraced by actors and audiences of all ethnic and cultural backgrounds, and his language shifts in powerful ways when Black actors recite the lines from within their own histories of struggle and creative agency. We were inspired by Haley Elise Byerly and Malik Proctor's masterful film, The Chorus, a collection of Shakespeare. This work of art featured Black actors from the UC Irvine acting program performing monologues from the Shakespearean canon. They are putting the final touches on this film, and we'll let you know when and where you can see it when it's complete. And now, please welcome our director of Wherein I See Myself, Wayne T. Carr.
Well, it all started with your phone call, first and foremost. So I really was inspired by you and the students and the staff at UC Irvine. The inspiration from the film that you shared with me, which I hope everyone else gets to see, was extremely inspiring and became like my mission statement with this piece. There is a lot that was changed in this piece language wise. So a lot of you may have heard monologues that you're familiar with, but words were changed or rearranged, taken completely out of context. The thing that was extremely inspiring to me was that when Eli approached me about this project, the thing that I felt, that I saw, that I experienced was my inner child kind of like coming to life in a completely new way. I I am my age. I am who I am today, and of course I love Shakespeare. But my 12-year-old self would have loved Shakespeare if I would have seen Tristan, Maya, and the rest of the cast do it the way that they did it. There was something about being able to talk to artists and say, hey, so I want you to take this Hamlet monologue and I kind of want you to just remix it a little bit. Don't think about the play. Just like, what do the words say to you? You know, what do you think about this Henry piece? And then see what they came up with. And some actors had an easier time with completely taking it out of context. We all know these plays really, really well. And that's awesome. But if you take them out of context a little bit and allow yourself to have a little more freedom with it, I think we can discover a lot more in the text and that it can inspire the way we traditionally like to see Shakespeare. There's something about seeing a Henry speech done in front of a computer with some hot sauce and Coke cans in front of it. It just inspires me. You know, it really, really does. And inspiration was my theme throughout. I wanted to be inspired. I wanted the artist to be inspired. I chose monologues that I thought were inspiring to me, and that's kind of where I started from.
That's really wonderful. Maya or Tristan, can you talk a little bit about the experience of putting this together and how the work affected you, how working on this might have been different in a sense than, well, working live, but working in a Shakespeare show, because it was all, I'm imagining everybody was working in separate spaces, for example.
So to have this freedom to be Black within these words for going at it in that way, like I was like, okay, let's explore, because in a lot of other Shakespeare productions, I've had to ask myself, like, you know, I'm sure Wayne and Tristan, why am I here? How am I in this play? Mm-hmm. But that's also the exciting part too, is because, you know, we can set it in space or set it, you know, blah, 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 and we can fit into these different worlds. But this one was more how does this really speak to me past the story? And it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
I didn't like Shakespeare until I got to grad school and sort of relearned what it was. Before then, it always seemed like something I got to try out and then just give back away, but I never really felt allowed to personalize Shakespeare to a degree where it's like I could see myself on stage being one of these characters. Like upon up until this project, I never thought about that. I never thought about, I've never really seen someone on stage doing Shakespeare that looks like me, and then slowly but surely that idea started to pop into my head. And then I was given this project where I was able to kind of talk about that. And it was a lot more cathartic than I thought it would be. Yeah, no, the match thing was my idea. Basically, because in that monologue, he's talking about basically like having the right to like exist and having the right to be a fierce person. And there's a lot in there that I didn't realize that I resonated with on such a deep level. And I thought like, there's got to be a manifestation of a way I can like my trying to keep something from being taken from me, so to speak. And so when I thought about the fire thing, I like tried it out sometimes downstairs, and I was just like, yeah, it kind of makes a lot of sense to try to just, within the monologue and within myself and in reality, keep the flame alive.
And Maya, when you that the filming was so interesting in that section where there were just like pieces of you.
I don't know. I felt compelled to have it on certain like places on my face, because I sometimes feel, I guess, hypersexualization with Black women in any space, but a lot of the Shakespeare world, you always see like Titania or someone and all this, or Helena, like, who's more, I don't know, being looked at under a microscope, I guess. That's how I feel it. Being seen from an unwanted point of view, or just really being monitored more closely as well. So that's kind of what I thought. And it's actually interesting. I'm working on Marina and the other New Swan Pericles project, and I hadn't really dove into that before until right after filming this. But there's something interesting about Marina also being under the microscope of many different men and people in her life as well. So yeah, that's kind of where that idea came from. And I was like, well, how do I do that on film? And then I was like, well, I could actually zoom in. So that's what I did.
The direction that I gave everyone was very, very simple. And it confused them, I know. But if you remember when we first started to talk, I said, create something that inspires you. Take the language and allow that to inspire you. The language in itself is the structure. Maya, you know that, right? And so like, yeah, sure, there's a story and I can put a concept on things, but if you just take the language and use that as the structure, this monologue in itself having a beginning, middle, and end, what does it do for you without knowing the rest of the story? Because little Sally over here, who's 9 years old, watching you and seeing your face magnified in this simple but very complex and intricate way, is going to get something completely different from it than the next person. And that person is going to be inspired by something that maybe you intended or did not intend. But it came from your inspiration, which is, in my opinion, how Shakespeare was started in general. He was inspired by other people's stories and made it his own. And that was the direction that I gave, which was extremely frustrating to myself and to other actors, because you want to try to mold something. But my objective was to inspire, and my desire was to inspire, and I encouraged them to create pieces that inspired them. And as difficult and crazy as it was, I thank all of you, especially those of you who are here. If you can hear this, thank you so much for playing and listening to my crazy direction. I appreciate it. So, Tristan, Black Lives Matter. You want to talk about it?
I think the important thing about, getting that message is that none of us said that, and you still got that message. Like I was framing, at least my portion, I was framing it to just be honest with myself and let myself get upset and let myself, get riled up and be affected by, what I was saying and the character's situation. But I think within that, you start to hear that, these are just people who are kind of fighting for their right to exist, which, if we were to put that in a more through a societal lens of like what's going on right now, you do get Black Lives Matter because it's black, it's, this minority cast is talking about, the themes of Shakespeare, which is just existing and legacy and love and life. And but when told through Black bodies, you get a message that is still kind of being fought today. So I think it's poignant. It's poignant, yes. That we none of us had to say that, but we all know kind of that this is a stance that that matters. And yeah.
There was also something similar to Wayne's inspiration, which is letting, rather than us molding to you coming to us for the story. And that in itself, I think that depicts Black Lives Matter versus us having to mold ourselves into these different worlds or texts that we don't necessarily have historically fit in, even though that's also like it can be argued that we've been here all along, in these classical texts. But there's something about right now in America specifically, because I know that England is a little different. Actually, they're probably further along than we are with Shakespeare and diversity, I think. But that if you get Black people in a room together doing one thing, that's revolutionary in itself. Boom, done. We don't have to do anything else to it. That's already saying something, that's already speaking out, that's already going against the norm. So it just had it in the message from day one, from the first rehearsal, I think.
I want to say this before I forget. If you Eli, one of the things that was extremely powerful and beautiful to me about the project was that these young actors that I got to work with all came from the University of California, Irvine College or University. To see that many people from Orange County, you know what I mean? Like, to people of color from Orange County, it was powerful for me to just be able to work with a group of actors who went to that program. The reason why I point this out is because you can't do that many places.
Thanks for saying that, Wayne. We have a question here from Julia. Can you say a bit more about the post-production process and the story that you were telling through this? There is an order to the final film.
Once everything was kind of like solidified and we knew the actors that we had, and monologues were kind of like shifted around, and I used my gut to hand monologues to people from a really quick meeting that we had. We had a little Zoom meeting, and I just kind of like took from the essence of the individual and said, I would like to see this person do this. And I gave my production team, Merle, Miriam, and Megan, I gave them a blueprint of an idea that I had. And from that blueprint, we added things to it. So All the World's a Stage means something to me, and I think it means something to a lot of other people. And we chopped it up, of course, as some of you may have noticed, to be put in between certain scenes. So there were certain things that inspired me that I didn't necessarily talk to Merle about why I chose to do certain things. I just did it because it inspired me, and like a good editor, he just made it work. And I can talk details about certain things, but basically, there's a beginning, middle, and end to everything. And I was inspired by life in itself, and then there were certain monologues that popped into my head that I thought, oh, this will be interesting to hear in this moment. And so I moved it into that space. And at the end of it, I was inspired by the blueprint, and hoped that the team and the people viewing it would be inspired as well. It was just like people were given their parts, and we met together to create this thing, which is scary to a lot of people, because you have no context of what's going to happen or what kind of imagery is going to be put on top of your work. And so I thank all of the artists for trusting me with creating that, because they had to trust me. I didn't tell them anything.
I love it. I think we'll ask this one, which is coming from Julia, and I agree. Really, the Hamlet and the movement piece. Can you say more about how that was done, how you pulled it off, and what went into it?
Yeah, every piece that was created, of course, was inspired from the actor's connection to the words. And some people went a little more abstract with it, and I love that. Matter of fact, there are a couple of actors who sent in tapes that were a little more polished, and I decided to use their first draft because I didn't want it to be as clean as a lot of us want our Shakespeare and our plays to be. I love the raw element of giving somebody, excuse me, giving somebody a beautiful speech that we know, especially Hamlet. We know Hamlet. Everybody knows Hamlet. If you take that and you completely strip it, and you think about what inspires you, what gets you going, well, dance, music, MLK, Black Lives Matter, jewelry, whatever it is that inspires you, and these words mean a certain thing to you, I will take any of these actors any day who are willing to do this kind of work and put them in my production at the Guthrie any day, because they're willing to go there, because you have to be able to go there with Hamlet. Everybody knows that, right? So if you can do that from a monologue and create something, I can use that inspiration, as I keep saying over and over again, and put you in a traditional Denmark, Elsinore, Hamlet, and create something that is a little more grounded than I think sometimes we see. Many of us, I'm sure, have seen Hamlets that are not that great or that we're not connected to. That should never happen, ever. The reason why it does happen is because I think we as artists are stiff. We use our history, our mental history of what these plays should be and how they should be acted and directed and produced, and we create this stale, redundant, if this is the word that I'm looking for, but it's like a copy of a copy of a copy, and it becomes lacking. And if I can take an actor and say, forget about all the stuff, what is your inspiration? And then you take one word from any of Hamlet's speeches and highlight that and uplift and bring that out, and have a story behind it, like she did with her movement piece. And there was this thing that she's trying to say, and then just go, okay, now put that in our play. It will rock you to your core, I promise you. That was the exercise that we were playing with. And a lot of people don't have the courage to go there, and these actors did.